to another Comics Brew and Chew podcast. Another episode brought on location from all of our houses. It's also a planned episode. Before all this shit went down, like, you know what? Let's bake another pie. Well, not bake, but like. So without further ado, today is Cinco de Mayo, which means yesterday was May the 4th. Talk about some Star Wars shit. I assume Tom is going to want to mention Clone Wars.
I am going to want to mention Clone Wars, because yesterday was the Clone Wars series finale, which was, pretty big deal. The show got canceled, what was it, John, like 7 years ago now was the cancellation when he took over?
Yeah, like it was a little after Disney bought it, so it might have been...
Disney got Star Wars in 2012.
So I think that's around the time it canceled.
And then they got that one Netflix season of just like whatever was, mostly animated from season 6. And now here we are getting a season 7 that, skips over a lot of the stuff from when it was canceled, but pushes full steam ahead into the ending they planned.
I'm kind of disappointed that they called it the final season from the get-go, and I feel like they're gonna regret that decision, seeing as how, of the things Disney has put out Star Wars in the past, 8 years at this point, I can think of few things that have been as positively recepted as the Clone Wars Season 7. Star Wars Rebels was a little rocky at first. Star Wars Resistance was not
Although Clone Wars was rocky at first, too. And I think that's just kind of par for the course with those shows, where they do kind of start them off targeted at, the biggest possible general audience, and then let it grow into something with its own style. And I haven't seen Resistance yet, but I feel like Resistance being only 2 seasons never really got that chance to grow that Clone Wars and Rebels got.
I think Resistance had this chance to grow. It really hit this thing where, the main character is, he's embedded at this, civilian, refueling station, and he's embedded there by the Resistance under orders from Leia and Poe. They're like, oh, this guy he's here to keep an eye on the station, and, kind of act as a spy, keep an eye on the First Order, who also have interest in this refueling station. And it starts off as this kind of espionage. He has to be careful, make sure he doesn't blow his cover, and it starts off interesting in that way, with the First Order kind of coming and going into and out of the everyday problems that something like this would face. And then, season 1 ends with it being alright, well, his cover's blown, the First Order it's rise to power after the Starkiller base incident. And the show kind of, instead of turning it into Star Wars, an actual Resistance, it was kind of just what's our plucky cast of characters up to this week? It's okay, this week they're dealing with a food shortage. And then, I never finished season 2, but it, while Star Wars Rebels and Clone Wars kind of have these episodes that take a break from the main conflict at hand, and would occasionally dip you into not slice of life, but these non-centralized conflicts or these events, Star Wars Resistance was very much okay, we're just gonna deal with everyday life on this station, and oh look, we're having a race today, and we're gonna have another race tomorrow, and this guy was kidnapped by gangsters he owes money to, and it's it missed so much possibility for this look at the First Order and where the galaxy was.
I wonder how much of that was affected by the scramble that was starting Rise of Skywalker over from scratch. Because, when it was in development, Force Awakens had already released, Rise of Skywalker was Last Jedi was in production, and those 2 movies are set at, the exact same time anyways. So, it was always building up to Force Awakens and then, the aftermath of Jedi. But then, when Colin Trevorrow was fired from Episode 9 and JJ was brought back in and the whole movie was scrapped and started over, that has to have impacted the course of what Resistance is going to be, I'd imagine.
Yeah, part of me would say, yeah, I imagine with what was going on with Star Wars at the time might have affected it, but at the same time, it's like it never really had a clear outline of what it wanted to do. Like the main advertising for the series was like, like I got the impression that it was gonna be like it was gonna start focusing on like this idea that they're all like spaceship racers and they're all gonna spend time like working on their racers. And I mean, that was not something I was interested in really seeing. But they didn't even spend a whole lot of time on that. And then like,
Right.
but like I actually started to want to see more of that, and instead it was like just wacky gang shenanigans and just some really weird character motives. Where like this one character is kind of like this very neutral standing where she doesn't agree with like she sees the resistance as like not outlaws but like these people running around wildly not sanctioned by the military, and she sees the First Order as people who will do what's necessary to like for security reasons and stuff like that. And the whole time she's with these characters who see like who are firsthand experiencing like some of the crazy stuff the First Order does. Like in one episode, they're protecting these two children for First Order like want to kill. And this character is just she still kind of like leans towards the First Order, and at the end of the first season, she straight up joins them. And then the First Order's like, "Hey, we're gonna kill your friends who are on the station that you abandoned." So, and she's still like with them, and it's like it's just bad writing.
Now, my other question regarding Resistance, Filoni wasn't super involved in that one, right? Because I'm guessing at the same time this is when he was really focusing in on the final Clone Wars season and on Mandalorian.
I don't think so. I know he was the big one for the art style that they went with.
Yep.
I'm not
Which
sure.
makes sense, because after doing two CG, shows, granted, Clone Wars and Rebels have very different looks to them, I do totally get the desire to do something different for a third one. Especially because he comes from a 2D background with, like, Avatar and all of the other things he was doing before this.
Let me take a look here. So IMDb says Resistance has not ended, which is wrong.
Weird, because it definitely, has gotten it 2 and done seasons. But yeah, I haven't seen any of Resistance, but Clone Wars, I didn't watch live as it aired. I caught up in like 2015 or 2016. I watched everything that was out there, and it is just fantastic, that show. And the final season, just even after all these years of, hoping and waiting for the show to get an ending, it lives up to it without a doubt. Amanda, you've been catching up on Clone Wars now for the first time, and how far in are you? You just started?
I just finished the first episode of season 4.
Okay, cool. So you're past the halfway point then, or almost at somewhere around there, because the other 2 seasons are short. So you're at about the midpoint of the show. Also, season 4, that means you have the really great Umbra art.
I just want more Ahsoka.
You have a lot more Ahsoka coming.
I know, that excites me.
And
I find there's some like not intermittent, but there's some parts of Clone Wars where I remember starting the show and being like, I want less Ahsoka. I was like, I want more Mace Windu and more Kit Fisto and more Ki-Adi Mundi and Obi-Wan.
Kit Fisto was always
And then
my favorite.
Near the end of the series, I was like season 6 had no Ahsoka whatsoever, and that
thanks.
just I think that's what I don't really enjoy about season 6. Like it's good, but I don't enjoy.
Season 6
It
does
feels
have
like something's
that
missing.
fantastic Yoda arc, though.
Yeah, it does have that fantastic Yoda arc, but everything else about it, it's just like I've found myself just being like, wow, I kind of miss I miss Ahsoka.
Yeah, although it does, I'd say I do, I love Ahsoka, but I think having that one season distance from her does a lot for Anakin. Which is interesting, because I think if we had spent, now granted, if season 6 got to air in full, we would have had Ahsoka, she would have been in that second half of the season a lot. But, just having Anakin kind of going through that chunk near the end of the war without her before, they eventually meet up again, just before, the battle occurs on Siege of Mandalore. I think getting a lot of Anakin's perspective without her does a lot for his character that just makes it more interesting to link up again.
Yeah, and I don't know. Like, season 6 is like something I really enjoyed it when it first came out, and then on like subsequent rewatches, I kind of just like, again, like something's missing, and maybe it is Ahsoka that I'm missing, but at the same time, it's like I don't know. I kind of felt like what were the season 6 arc? It was like it was
the Mace Windu and Jar Jar one.
Yeah, I hate that one.
The Order 66, where Fives catches on a little bit early, which I thought was great, and the Yoda one, and I think there was one other one there.
I think there was a short, like maybe 2-episode arc somewhere in there. I can't remember.
I thought the Mace Windu one was the 2-episode.
Yeah.
I'm looking it up.
Oh, you know what? I think it was 5 episodes each, right, for the arcs.
Okay. So there was the 4-episode Fives arc. There was then there was a Padme arc.
Oh,
and then there was the 2-episode Mace and Jar Jar arc, and then it ended with the 4 Yoda episodes.
That Padme arc is more interesting looks into Anakin's headspace near the end of the Clone War.
Right, because you see a much more like unhinged Anakin there, right?
Plus, like his relationship with Padme is a little. He gets jealous. He has this like fit of rage at one point, if I remember correctly.
Which I don't want to get into direct spoilers for the final season, the newest season, just because because Amanda hasn't seen up to that point yet. But what's the spider-looking guy's name? The separatist guy.
Trent.
Trench, right? There's that Anakin and Trench that I think is the biggest indicator of where Anakin is going.
Yeah.
In this most recent season that I thought was really great.
And to go back to the season 6 stuff that was cut, there's the Utapau arc, and in the Utapau arc, like, we see and hear a lot of frustration from Anakin about the Council's decision. Yeah.
So I noticed that
we see his darker side when he
they pulled that from the website.
Did they?
Yeah, I was trying to find it recently because I was going to send it to Amanda to watch after season 6, before season 7, but they removed it from their chronological viewing list, and I can't find it in their search on the website.
That's very weird. I wonder if now that they've seen this like outpouring of love for what they've done, that they were like, get Filoni on the phone. He's gonna make more Clone Wars.
Right. Like, and I absolutely get them taking whatchamacallit, the Bad Batch one off, just because they wound up finishing that for the final season, so that one's kind of unnecessary to have there now. It looks like the Utapau art is on YouTube, just some third party uploaded it. But Star Wars has removed any mention of it from their website. But that was a good one with a lot of interesting Death Star setup that actually ties into Rogue One pretty nicely. Speaking of tying into Rogue One pretty nicely, I've been watching Rebels for the first time. Now, I'm just finished this morning, actually. And there was an episode that tied in pretty well, set on one of Geonosis. But Rebels, through those first 2 seasons, has been like such a wonderful continuation of, Clone Wars, its own unique thing with its own character. I absolutely love with these shows what Filoni has brought to Star Wars.
And like, at the same time, it's like, Rebels has this interesting thing where at first it's like this own group, like, telling their own story in the galaxy. They're very secluded from like,
everything, really.
yeah, and then at the end of season 1, they introduce the character. You know, I'm not gonna say it just because, like, if people do happen to listen to this and they haven't seen Rebels,
Me?
it's a wonderful reveal. And then it kind of evolves where, like, these characters kind of get, like, hijacked into the greater Skywalker story of I guess at this point it's not the Skywalker story, but it very much is.
Right.
They get kidnapped, they get, like, taken into this ongoing structure of what basically is because of the Skywalker family.
Yeah.
And then it kind of takes this interesting side note where, like, the stuff that pulled them into that is gone and they're back on their own, and that's really when the series hits its stride, is, like, when they are allowed to then be their own separate entity from this other thing that hijacked their story. And it's interesting.
Okay.
Like, it's
where
cool.
I am, they're, like, fully ingrained in the core rebellion.
Yeah, and then, like, later on, you'll see that they do get to, like, they get to spread their wings, in a sense.
And that makes sense, because I know Saw Gerrera comes in and he's a rebel, but, you know, the way Rogue One explores him, he's not, you know, Mon Mothma's Rebel Alliance. That's a totally different set of rebels. So that's interesting. I didn't know it kind of goes in that direction, so that's something I look forward to.
Well, when you meet him right now, he's still, like, when you met him, he is still involved.
I haven't seen him yet. He got one
you
mention so far, but I don't think he comes in in the flesh until season 3.
Right. Okay, yeah, okay. You're right. I forgot he came in after season 3, just because, like, I forgot season 3 ran concurrent with Rogue One, or
yeah,
no?
because season 2 came out right around the time of Force Awakens, and then they do that little bit with the crossguard saber as that little ancient Jedi nod.
Right. Yeah, Rebels is fantastic. I still like it more than Clone Wars because of its serialized, more, like,
yeah, it's a totally
story.
different structure, and that's one thing I appreciate too. That with Filoni, like, Rebels feels very, like, traditional serialized television. With Clone Wars, it felt like every arc was basically a whole different genre film that Lucas and Filoni were interested in exploring. And I love how compatible the two shows are while having their own totally different styles like that. I like that they didn't just kind of pigeonhole them into doing, like, here's, you know, this show has to be the same thing that the previous show was. Like, they changed up the art style. Clone Wars has, like, this super detailed prequel-esque look to it. Rebels feels like a Ralph McQuarrie painting come to life, and they have totally different narrative structures, but they both do such a great job bridging those gaps in the prequel and original trilogy.
Plus, like they both manage, Rebels especially manages to hit this perfect balance of, like, it can be really fun and lighthearted and very childish, and then at other points it really just deals with these very, like, serious, like, ideas and issues that the characters
that
have.
I just watched in Twilight of the Apprentice.
Like, it deals with, like, it's so weird, like, how these Star Wars, at least these two Star Wars TV shows are these such, like, they get so dark, and it's funny that, like, as time went on, it got darker, almost like growing with its audience in a sense. But it's still, like, at a point where I feel like if a child was young enough and was watching these, like, they would still understand what's happening and have some sense of what's, like, going on. And it's this weird sense of smart children's television, which is starting to become more and more of a thing.
And I'll say this about them too. They managed to take something that I thought was one of the dumbest possible ideas, and it was one of the things that turned me off for a few years from giving Clone Wars a chance. How do you take Darth Maul, who is just so explicitly cut in half and you know, killed at the end of Phantom Menace, bring him back, and then manage to turn him into this, like, really fascinating character? That still blows my mind, that they not only like did that, but did it so well.
I'll tell you how, Tom. Zabraks have 2 hearts.
Is the other one in his knees?
I don't know. I remember like hearing that being one thing, that Maul species has 2 hearts.
One of the things that I vividly remember, I don't know if this was just me or if this was common speculation at the time, but in when Revenge of the Sith hype was building up and they revealed Grievous, for some reason I had it in my head that there was a possibility that Grievous was a resurrected Maul, like his heart in the robot body or something, and I don't know what compelled me to think that.
I remember I didn't get to see Revenge of the Sith for quite some time after it came out, because we were like, my grandfather had just died, and we were very much just like, there was a lot going on with funerals and all that stuff, and like, you know, I was 11, so I can't just go to the movie theater. I need a parent to go with me, and my mother's not going to go, and my dad's grieving his father and trying to get like like, you know, all this stuff into place and working 2 jobs. So I remember we didn't see it for quite some time, but I remember because we weren't going to get to see it, my dad was like, oh, well, my dad bought me the novelization. So I read the novelization to Revenge of the Sith. And I remember like reading about Grievous and having seen him in the bootleg copy of the Clone Wars that I had. I remember just loving the character from day one.
Grievous is
But because I was 11, I read his name as Grievous, and then my friends went to see the movie, and they're like, no, it's just Grievous. I'm like, no, it's Grievous. It sounds cool. I was like, Grievous is a real word. Why would we call somebody a real word? Like, that's stupid. But,
yep.
Yeah, I remember really liking Grievous, and, geez, I'm doing it again. I remember really liking Grievous. Maybe because, like him, I have breathing difficulties and I cough a lot. And I just really like to collect lightsabers.
George Lucas modified bronchitis added into the character.
But yeah, Grievous, probably, again, one of those characters I'm glad we have in the Clone Wars. Because, boy, did he really not have a whole lot to do in anything else.
He gets some cool stuff in the Clone Wars too, but really, I mean, I just love looking at Grievous. Like, he's just such a great design. I had a toy of Grievous as a kid, probably still in the box downstairs, that had like the flames shooting out of his chest and shooting out of his eyes and everything. It was the coolest thing.
That's really
I had that, and I had an Anakin that if you take off his Jedi robes, you could pop his head off and pop his arms off and pop his legs off and make him Anakin with just the one arm and all the burnt face on Mustafar. Like, I had both of those as a kid from Revenge of the Sith, and they were just the coolest things because, you know, I need charred bad guys from Revenge of the Sith for some reason.
I had 2 Revenge of the Sith action figures. Just
so many.
I had Obi-Wan. It's very fitting. I had Obi-Wan Kenobi and General Grievous, and that's all I needed.
Yep. Obi-Wan just getting his cool subplot. He, you know, creates a lifelong enemy in Maul and Phantom Menace. He gets the really great Kamino fight scene in Attack of the Clones with Jango. Then he gets to go hunt down Grievous.
Oh, man. Oh, like, Obi-Wan, I'm glad that they brought Maul back, and I'm so glad that, spoilers for Star Wars Rebels, I'm glad that it's Obi-Wan who gets to finish it.
Agreed.
It felt right. It felt so right. After all Maul did to Obi-Wan, for Obi-Wan to be the one to, like, finish him, it was perfect. And it's like, I'm not going to get into it because it's kind of like, it's Star Wars Rebels spoilers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, like, but I feel like like now the main Star Wars fan base, or at least the casuals, are going to be confused because of Solo, because they're going to see Maul and be like, oh, Maul's alive. And then they'll go and look it up, and it'll be like, Maul's dead. And they're like, so why was he in the movie? My father was one example of that. He saw Solo.
Mine also.
And he was like, oh man. He goes, you have to see. So he saw it in the theaters. I don't know if I saw Solo in the theaters.
I think you did, but well after, because
yeah.
I saw it with Amanda and tried to get you to go, but you were working or something.
But like I remember my dad went to see it, and he was like, I had heard about the Maul thing because everyone was talking about it, and my dad was like, so this takes place what, before Episode 1? He's like, I didn't realize Han Solo was that old.
That's exactly what my dad said, and I had to explain it after.
And then I was like, well, no, the Empire's around. And he goes, oh yeah. And he's like, I'm really confused. I'm like, well, Darth Maul survives. I was like, and he makes it like up until he survives for a while, and then eventually his hubris gets him killed. And my dad's like, so where was he? I'm like, well, he was insane for a little bit, and then he ran a crime syndicate for a little bit, and then he went insane again for a little bit.
And then he went Tatooine.
But yeah, it's confusing for the major Star Wars fans, especially since they'll never really have closure because Solo was probably supposed to be a trilogy, and we'll never get it.
That could be addressed without Han moving forward. Like, you could do crime stories in that era without Han. And still address, like, Black... what was his crime syndicate called?
Crimson Dawn.
Crimson Dawn, right. And, like, you could do more Crimson Dawn stuff without Han directly. You could do, whatever. There's so many other criminal things going on in that era where that could be addressed. The only thing is that you're never going to get Maul's ending. The most of an ending you could give him is the collapse of Crimson Dawn, however that happens, and him winding up on Malachor. So even still, you're going to need the animated series. Both get his resurrection in Clone Wars and finally end in Rebels.
No, I feel like Fred has not said a whole lot in this situation, so I'm going to keep us on Star Wars, but I'm going to shift tracks to something that Fred can talk about, and it's Genndy Tartakovsky's Clone Wars.
Hello.
See, Fred's back now because he fucking loves Genndy's Clone Wars.
I agree. I have both of those original releases on DVD still, but I bought as a kid.
I have bootleg copies.
Man, see, I got the official.
Hey, hold on, someone's knocking on my door. Oh, that's funny. It's Disney's lawyers. But yeah, Genndy's is God. It's so cool, and I'm glad that the Clone Wars does end up using some stuff that Genndy established, such as Asajj Ventress, her spaceship.
Darnell Taylor.
Yep. Some of the battles we see are directly inspired by the Genndy series.
And a lot of the visual style too, like how do you do with that super tall, skinny head, and things like that. Like a lot of the visual style, I feel like comes from the Genndy show, at least in its rough concept. Asajj, I'm so glad they, pulled her from there and did her in, the proper Clone Wars series and, developed her as such an interesting character.
Yeah, Asajj was something that, unfortunately, she was affected by the cancellation.
That actually brings up a big point. There's that novel that they did that adapts those episodes, that Dark Disciple, I think it's called, that I think I'm going to get my hands on, just because I don't really care about, expanded universe Star Wars novels and stuff most of the time, but that one being based on Clone Wars scripts, I think I want to read it.
I also have thought about reading that one. I haven't had the chance, really. The only Star Wars book I've read that is current canon is I've read the E.K. Johnston Ahsoka book, which now, for the most part, has some inaccuracies because of Clone Wars.
Right. Yeah, I heard about the things that Filoni changed from that, which I guess they're based on older Clone Wars drafts, that book, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, back to the Fred topic with the Gendy Clone Wars series. I'm actually pulling my DVDs out now to take a look at those. Didn't Tom Kane also voice Yoda in that?
Yeah, I think so. But
Yeah,
the whole first season was like silent, right? There was almost no dialogue except from some.
Well, yeah, because they were like 5 minutes each episode, and then it was 25-minute episodes for the first volume, and then the second volume there were only 5 episodes, and they went up to 15 minutes each and had more of a narrative rather than just little like slice of life during war. That also had a very different version of Grievous than what the Clone Wars and the movies wound up having. Which I'm not gonna lie, like I adored like super scary Grievous in that, but I gotta say that like I love Grievous as this coward that like the canonical version of him is.
The scene where he runs down the side of the building while they're all in the elevator, like catching their breath because they think they've gotten away, and then they look out the window and he's Naruto running down the side of the building. Oh god.
What about at the end of the first part where he gets his introduction with the Jedi that looks like Shaggy?
Oh, what do you mean? That's his name?
Oh, that's right. That was actually his name.
His name is Shaggy.
That's insane. Jeez.
Yeah, that's also a really cool thing that I don't know if the Clone Wars current was directly inspired by that, but that introduced the ARC troopers, who we later see and be a prominent like almost air of mythicality around them in the modern Clone Wars.
One of the only action figures that I bought from the Genki Clone Wars series was the ARC Trooper with the blue markings, and that was one of my favorite toys. I had so many clones, and that was one of the that I had.
Yeah, the what do you call it? The ARC Troopers in that series were so cool. How like they come in with their shark-mouthed gunship, like, firing on Grievous, and they can't kill him, and they have all these cool different weapons.
What about Dirge?
Dirge was so cool. I think he's been like completely removed from the canon.
Yeah.
Which kind of makes sense because like I think maybe if I remember correctly, I think Anakin finally killed him.
Obi-Wan. Oh, you mean like outside of the show?
Yeah, in the show he lives through everything they show him through, but I'm pretty sure in like the actual
gets blown up, by Obi-Wan and the ARC Troopers in the show, and then I don't know if the other expanded universe material that used to be canon, I don't know how they like did it after.
I think they threw him into a sun.
Of course they did, because throw him into a sun, crush Chewbacca with a moon.
Yeah.
Star Wars
the old canon. I don't get how people can be like. Granted, the current like Disney stuff, it's not great, but some of the stuff they did, the Lucas era expanded universe was like, god.
The way that Clone Wars and Rebels have taken, and this was like Lucas and Filoni's mindset of Clone Wars, and it carried over into Rebels. I like the way that they treated the old EU as stuff that they could mine, but they were never like beholden to it. Like they take like just a concept or a design that looked cool or a character that they like, but who cares what the expanded universe continuity was? Like the only continuity that really mattered in Lucas's mind outside of the movies was the Clone Wars.
And like that gold mine is like something that a lot of people have come to criticize because Kathleen Kennedy went on record saying, like, this isn't a comic book, this isn't, like, we don't have source material. But
Which I do agree
I get what
with
she's
that.
saying. But,
Like, at the end of the day, it should be on the filmmakers to tell their stories, but that stuff is there if they so choose to pull from it.
and then at the same time, it's like, if you do pull these things from old canon, like, people are going to treasure it, and you're going to have to, somehow you're going to have to find a way to do this thing right, while also tell a new story with this character, but at the same time, also not ruin it for people who would probably, like Thrawn is a good example of that, and I think Thrawn was brilliantly executed.
And I have not gotten to any of the Thrawn stuff yet.
Yeah,
so I'm really
you haven't started season 3, you haven't met him.
Right.
And, like, I know a lot of people, like, Thrawn, if most people who are familiar with old EU, I think if there's 2 or 3 characters that people really, really love and hold on this high pedestal, it's probably Revan, Thrawn, and then I would say maybe, like, even Mara Jade, but Mara Jade is out of the question almost completely at this point.
And, Revan, have there been any hints to Revan? I know Clone Wars did Darth Bane in a really cool way, but I don't remember anything about Revan.
Revan was from a cut scene of the Mortis arc, which is so weird, where the son would have talked to Bane and Revan, and they would have had this, like, influence over him, which is really weird, because why would 2 Sith Lords be
you'd think it would be the opposite way, where the son would have the influence over the Sith. That's probably why it was cut, honestly.
And then the visual dictionary for episode 9, all the, God, I don't even remember what are the red stormtroopers called?
Oh, they were the Sith troop.
Yeah, the Sith troopers. Each company of Sith troopers named after a Sith Lord from the past. And there's, like, I think there's Revan, and there's a couple other that are references to the old EU.
Amanda.
Yes?
I thought I heard you. Never mind.
I'm right here.
Oh, hello. Amanda, so you've been watching Clone Wars, like you said, you're on board. What are some of your favorite arcs up to this point where you're at?
Well, I love the Mortis arc, which I've watched twice now.
Mortis is so good. That's right, because I showed you Mortis before you ever started the show as a way to get you into it.
Yes. Which, I mean, it wasn't really hard to get me to watch. All you had to do was characterize Ahsoka.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She's so great, man.
I'm really excited just because you're on season 4. You're only a few episodes away from the General Krell arc, and I know you said you've been liking the characterization of the clone troopers, so I think that's something you're going to absolutely love.
I'm getting there, slow but sure.
Yeah, I think out of the Clone Wars, Rex and Ahsoka are my favorite characters in that entire series.
Yeah.
I mean, I really like Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he's, like, my favorite, and Mace Windu's a badass, but, like, those two are just so, like, Rex and Ahsoka are just great characters. I'm so glad that they've kind of retroactively made it canon that Rex fought on Endor.
And it makes sense that those two are, like, the main focus, just because I think when you're bridging kind of the gap between mediums with, live action and animation like that, it makes sense to kind of anchor the story in, the other medium with wholly original characters, and that is kind of what Ahsoka and Rex were. Like, I'd say they're the main face of the Clone Wars, and sure, the show is, like, all of these different arcs with different characters, and I love that structure, but at the end of the day, those are the two that are kind of at the core of it, along with Anakin. But it's more so Anakin through their perspectives rather than Anakin through his own, like, movie.
So Fred, I know you had mentioned it, but you watched some of the Clone Wars when it originally aired, right?
I missed the pilot episode because I was playing chess with my aunt in my kitchen because she came up to visit. But yeah, I watched some of the originals, and then I came back in around the time right before they canceled.
So you saw some of season 1, some of 5. Okay.
I saw a bunch of like seasons 1 and 2, and then episodes throughout, and then right around the time it started turning into like The Fugitive. Saw.
Oh, yep. So the last Ahsoka arc of season 5.
And then I remember starting it back up because they said they were doing it on Netflix, and then I think I dropped off because like when they put it out on Netflix, I had shit to do. If I remember correctly. Yeah, so I've dabbled in the Clone Wars. When it started, I think like John said, with it aging up with his audience, it was definitely geared towards a younger audience, which I didn't really vibe with. And like I kind of fell in when like they started introducing like Cad Bane and some stuff like that, but I fell back out. When it started
Cad
back
Bane
up,
has the coolest voice, and that is all I'm going to say on that subject.
when it started back up and it started getting darker and more interesting around the time of Ahsoka's whole thing where she turns fugitive and escapes. Not to spoil Amanda, I don't actually know what the fuck's going on. It definitely was more mature and kind of like I was still older than I think the core demographic, but it was something that I could actually like grab onto a little more.
I don't know. That show
Like-
gets pretty dark.
Than some of like the not like kiddier, but some like the more lighter episodes of like the original. And when I was watching the first couple seasons, I was kind of expecting like some of the elements of the Gendy show to show up, which was definitely darker in tone, like more aligned with maybe where I was maturity wise, or at least like I was using. Not to like make a comment on like
You go for it?
like if you watch some show for kids now, I don't think they might be as dark, but I don't know as like when we were kids and like the dark stuff we were allowed to watch or like was rated appropriate for us.
They're talking about some darker, kids television, and that just has me thinking about Asajj, just because she was a character that originated in the Gendy show. And I forget when it is. It's in season 4 or 5. That really brutal clone kill that she has, where she's killing the clone trooper while kissing him, that I'm just shocked actually made it to television.
But not even
But
made
actually,
not even
that's
that
right.
though.
Wasn't it censored for television and then restored on the Blu-ray or something?
No. It was the first airing of that episode where she impales and kisses him. It aired, and I was like, "Wow, holy shit!" And then I believe subsequent airings removed it, and it was removed from the DVD release. And I don't even think it was there when Clone Wars was on Netflix for a while. But it's still there. It is. It very much is. Same with the clone trooper saying "damn" in like one of the early episodes.
That was in the
Or no,
movie,
he says
no,
he says what the.
that in the movie.
No, he also says it on the Rishi Moon episode. Yeah.
Okay.
I dropped off watching Clone Wars maybe around the same time Fred did. Probably a little later because I did stick with it. It was I dropped off in season 3 when I never saw, after like the Citadel arc, I never saw the Ahsoka kidnapped by Trandoshans. And I honestly think I came back for the second episode of Umbara. And then after seeing that, I tracked down the first episode through On Demand. But I dropped on and off between season 4 and season 5.
Speaking of the Citadel arc, Amanda, because I know you just watched that one. What did you think of that one? Just because that one actually becomes relevant in the final season in a way that I, totally forgot.
I don't remember.
The one with Echo, the clone trooper, getting left behind.
I vaguely remember. I'm sorry. I've binged so much lately.
It's the episode where they have to go to the prison planet with Tarkin.
Yes.
To rescue Tarkin.
Okay.
Which has that interesting divide where Ahsoka doesn't trust Tarkin.
Yep.
And is more in line with Master, God, what's his name? Evan Keel. Like, I don't know. And then Anakin is like, oh, I totally trust Tarkin, and it's this weird thing where it's like, well, we don't.
Well, yeah, because someday they're gonna blow up Alderaan together.
Which is a cool introduction
Yeah.
for more future characters, especially since Tarkin comes back later, and he's even more hateable.
Yeah. But yeah, that arc actually leads into the Bad Batch stuff in the final season in an interesting way.
Oh yeah, it does. So now, when do we think? I mean, obviously, with what's going on in the world right now, it might not be possible for them to be working on it. Although the stuff you can do from home is pretty substantial. When do we think we see another Star Wars animated series like Rebels?
Honestly, I'm shocked we didn't get an announcement about one on Star Wars Day yesterday. But at this point now, like, we have Mandalorian is ongoing with 3 other live-action shows in the works. So, like, live-action episodic content is pretty well covered. But there's this gap now with, Resistance ended, and it was followed up on with the final season of Clone Wars. There has to be something else in the works, and I would be shocked if it wasn't some kind of a Rebels sequel series with Ahsoka and Ezra. But I expect to have an announcement before the year is done for something that will be airing sometime.
I was going to ask when D23 is, but fat chance that happens.
Unless they do it just because D23 could theoretically be like a digital thing, just because it's not really for the general public. Like, it's an invite only sort of thing. But D23 is not this. D23 is every other year.
Don't forget, Celebration. Celebration was supposed to be in August.
Oh yeah, there's a Star Wars Celebration this year.
Yeah, so maybe there.
Yeah, I wonder, has that been officially canceled yet?
No. I was talking about it yesterday. To somebody who was supposed to be going.
That would be a good place to announce it, even if that gets canceled and they wind up doing like a digital celebration or whatever. That would be the place to announce it and debut footage and whatnot. Just because this is going to be the first fall in a while without a new season of an animated show debuting, unless there is something that will be that they just haven't announced yet.
What else was going on for Star Wars Day? They announced that beloved by this podcast, Taika Waititi,
I am so excited.
is getting his own It's getting a Star Wars movie that he gets to write.
But not just Taika.
Really?
Oh, no, wait a second, that's Mando.
What?
Yeah, Mando got a couple directors announced also.
Right.
With Robert Rodriguez and Peyton Reed. Peyton Reed, has done the Ant-Man movies. Robert Rodriguez has done Sin City, Alita Battle Angel. As far as good stuff goes,
Shark Boy and Lava Girl.
Shark Boy and Lava Girl. I like Robert Rodriguez a lot. I really need to watch Grindhouse.
I mean, Alita was excellent.
Yeah, see, another Alita fan.
Yeah. And I didn't think I was going to like it, so that's saying something.
I'll have to check out Alita. I love Christoph Waltz.
He's so good in it.
He always talks like he's so happy.
Yeah, he's so good in it.
But what do you call it? What was I talking about? Taika is getting a Star Wars movie. What could it honestly be? It's not. It has to be something outlandish. And I remember Tom brought this up.
I'm going to call right now that it's going to be all droids.
Oh my god.
Make it a pod racing movie.
I would watch the shit out of an all droids Taika Waititi movie. It's like, what's that, I don't know why, but I just pictured, like, 4 droids walking on train tracks together, like that coming-of-age movie with all the kids. Is that Stephen King? No, it's not Stephen King. It's not horror.
Oh, no.
What am I thinking of? It's like 4 kids walking on train tracks. Just
yeah, it's, the Stand, not the Stand, that's the infection one. That is Steven. Stand by me.
Right, but it's just like droids, and they're like struggles in the galaxy together.
It's like the D Squad.
Yeah, but with more personality, because D Squad, the only personality was like Meber Gascon, aka Plankton. Which that whole when I most recently watched that arc, I was like, God, he sounds like Plankton from SpongeBob. But I'm like, it has to be the same voice actor, and it isn't.
Huh. But yeah, and alongside the Taika announcement, there was also the announcement that there's a fourth live-action series in development from her name is Leslie Headland, who did Russian Doll, which I haven't seen, but I've heard is excellent. We don't know what the series is, but she's working on a live-action series, and that's in addition to Mandalorian Season 2 and the Obi-Wan and Cassian Andor shows that are also coming.
Russian.
I kind of want. I mean, it's probably so like I don't know, not cliche, but Boba Fett, man, like.
I'm glad we didn't get him Season 1, because I wanted, Season 1 to stand on its own and introduce the characters, like, the way it did. But I think having Boba, now that, like, The Mandalorian has been established as its own thing separate from that, having Boba as this recurring villain post-Sarlacc pit could be a lot of fun. And I really hope for a Bo-Katan pair. Especially now.
Katie Sackhoff was saying,
about this big moment in her career, and that's what lined up with the filming of the show. And she's, an actress, an actress outside of being a voice actress. Like, she's fantastic in Battlestar Galactica and whatnot. And she's, probably the right age at this point to, play Bo at this point in the timeline.
Because we see her in Rebels for a little bit, and she looks like, obviously she's older, 17 or 18 years have passed. So this would be it's 6 years after Return of the Jedi, so it'd be like about 11 years. No, not 11.
I think it's 3 years between A New Hope and Empire, and then 1 year between Empire and Jedi, right?
Something like that. So yeah, she'd probably be about 8-ish years. I don't feel like doing math. I'm just gonna stand by 8.
Yeah. Somewhere in that range.
So yeah, it makes sense.
I mean, she's probably younger in real life than Bo would be, but, whatever. It's just, and she's a character that I'd really like to see, especially with Darksaber now part of the show. My boy Giancarlo Esposito. It makes so much sense to bring her in.
Now, I'm curious if Disney puts a gun to Filoni's head and is like, listen, make more Clone Wars, and maybe he doesn't want to do it. Could you see them possibly, like, instead of calling it the Clone Wars, what if they just, like, he seemed to really, a lot of the stuff they wrote about with, like, the Underworld stuff could be pretty interesting, and maybe they somehow salvage, what was it, it was actually called Underworld, right? That live action series,
yeah.
Yeah. Like,
now, the interesting thing, too, is that some of the interesting arcs from Clone Wars that never got made, like the one dealing with the Sith Temple underneath the Jedi Temple, that's something that could be readapted to any point in the timeline, honestly. Like, that doesn't have to be explored during the time of the Clone Wars. That could be explored in the gap between 3 and 4. That could be explored, after Return of the Jedi. Like, that's something that could be discovered at any point and be an interesting
but
story.
the thing is that story under the Jedi Temple did revolve around Ahsoka going under there, and actually...
you would have to change the, protagonist at that point, but I just mean a lot of the story concepts.
She does actually face off with Sidious in that, too.
I forgot about that part.
It's not like a face-to-face fight, but, like, I think she's trying to hold the door shut, and he's on the other side, like, just lighting it up with his lightning, as Sheev Palpatine is known to do.
As Sheev does.
But maybe they could explore like some of those cut Underworld stuff as a mini series and just call it like Star Wars Underworld or
And
Crime
they've
Syndicate.
actually mined some of that for the 2 spin-off movies. Like, before internet trolls ran Pablo Hidalgo off the internet, he had hinted that a young Han Solo arc was one of the story arcs that was written for Underworld. And the Church of the Force with I'm sorry, not the Church of the Force. That was Lor Santeca. The Church of the Force that Lor Santeca was in Force Awakens is actually a concept that was going to be explored in Underworld with these like people that worshipped and respected the Jedi and were, trying to bring the Jedi back somehow after Order 66 and Darth Vader hunted the Jedi down. So they've been mining those scripts for a little bit, and actually that's where Saw Gerrera was originally created for. And then Lucas created Saw Gerrera for that live action show, and then they figured it would be fun to introduce a younger Saw in the Clone Wars to set him up for that show. And then, that show never wound up happening, so they worked in this Rebels Rogue One. But yeah, I bet there's a lot of great stuff in those Underworld scripts that can be mined and used in, future stories. Because I think they had...
If there's anything that they're good at, it's that.
Script, and 50 beginning to end screenplays, and another 50 outline.
Now, when the footage for that, it was like a test footage thing?
Just testing out some of the technology that they were going to be using, which is interesting because it seems like that technology is a pretty natural evolution into the tech that helped them finally do The Mandalorian with that, interesting projection they have.
I gotta say that footage did nothing for me. I was like, wow, I'm kind of glad this never saw the light of day. Something about it I get they probably weren't
anything, narratively. It wasn't characters from the show or anything. It was more just, here's how we could do a Empire-era Coruscant. Let's see if this is feasible to pull off on a TV budget.
I don't know, something about it just, again, I know it's test footage, but I just didn't like it. It just felt like,
I bet if that show was... if Netflix existed as it is today, 5 years sooner, I bet that show would have happened, and Lucas never would have sold the company.
Well, 5 years would have been 3 years too late.
When did Netflix get big with streaming?
No, I mean, Lucas sold the
TV.
company in 2012, and you said that
Right.
if they had pulled this off 5 years ago. 5 years ago was,
No, I mean
2015
5 years earlier than they did.
Gotcha, okay, alright.
If Netflix streaming and Netflix original content was a thing, 5 years sooner than it was a thing, then I think Lucas would have been able to work something out with Netflix, get the right funding to do this in a way that, a weekly television format wouldn't have. And I honestly think he would have kept that going. Clone Wars would have seen its natural end. He still had the company.
I feel like Clone Wars was probably better off with this period where, they could explore a little bit more what they wanted to do. Because, I'm sure...
in retrospect, it worked out super well.
Sorry.
No problem. And I don't think that... I don't think Clone Wars would have ended as well. I really just don't feel it, I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but I feel like if Lucas had always had the reins for all of it, or it had been, not Lucas, but pre-Disney buyout, I couldn't see it possibly being as good. I don't know, maybe that's because George Lucas is just, doesn't really know, I guess it's not fair to say he doesn't know what he wants to make, because it's his thing, he can make it however he wants, but just some of his decision-making and personal motives for the series are just not really what people expect from Star Wars, especially when, after, was it before Phantom Menace, he kind of just handed off his universe to, all these people who were writing books and stuff and kind of just let other people take control of his universe, and then when he reined it back in, it felt, I don't know, weird. Like, one example is Shadows of the Empire, which was this massive push that Lucasfilm had before, what is it, Phantom Menace, where they were like, we're gonna do this huge multimedia, oh shit, I just kicked my cat, sorry Stella, this huge multimedia, like, story that is told with different points of view through different forms of media that tell this story that takes place mainly between episodes 4 and 5, where it's like they had the game Shadows of the Empire, where you follow Dash Rendar, who people really like for some reason, even though he's shitty Han Solo. And then you have, there was a book that told another story, and then there was a comic book that told like another point of view, and then all like the toys and other merchandise that they released also had included like material for it, and it's so it's weird that like that's kind of like this weird thing where they told one story through so many different forms of media before digital media. You have to wonder how the hell did they get away with that, and maybe they didn't because, you know, most people don't remember Shadows of the Empire as a whole. They remember whatever they had chosen to immerse themselves into, be it the game, the book, the comic books. Like, I feasibly don't think you could pull that off today. Like, I don't think anyone could ever pull something like that off.
Yeah, it's interesting because it was like a whole multimedia campaign for a film without there being a film.
Yeah, that's exactly what Lucas wanted it to be. He's like, this is a Star Wars film, but not really, and just, it did not work out. Or, I mean, maybe it did, but I don't know.
I think it was, like, financially successful, but like most of the things in the expanded universe, it was just, you know, kind of take it or leave it narratively.
Like, I remember seeing, like, bits and pieces of it, and it did have a larger effect on Star Wars as a whole, because I'm pretty sure Shadows of the Empire was released before, like, Star Wars Rogue Squadron, and it had these flying segments, and that was the basis for Rogue Squadron. So it sets an interesting groundwork for stuff like that. But yeah, I've never really, aside from a couple missions of Shadows of the Empire I played back in the day on the N64, I wasn't really immersed in it, just because, I don't know, it wasn't really interesting to me. It was kind of like a dark period for Star Wars where they had all this stuff, all these video games that were like, you know,
not great.
Yeah, I mean, like, there were some, like, shining examples, like Star Wars Rogue Squadron was a fantastic trilogy, and that's because it kind of stayed within the story that George Lucas had told in the original trilogy, so that it worked in that sense. But some of the more wild, outlandish stuff that they tried to pull off, I know people really like Knights of the Old Republic and Jedi Academy.
I get this old.
But I think Star Wars really lived on through video games for quite some time. Before and even after Phantom Menace and the prequel trilogy. Because that's all, like, you know, if you thought about Star Wars post Revenge of the Sith, it was like Battlefront 2 had come out around the same time as Revenge of the Sith. People loved it, and it's still to this day held on this very high pedestal of, like, great Star Wars things. And then you have, like, Knights of the...
time, you got the Knights of the Old Republic stuff.
Yep.
Republic Commando. Like, that was probably the golden age for Star Wars games, was around the time of the prequels.
And, like, is KOTOR still going?
Is what?
Old Republic on... Oh, no, Old Republic Online.
I don't know. I know it was going for a long time, even though they were considering it not canon. But I don't know. Was that BioWare? I know they did Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah,
BioWare.
it was BioWare Electronic Arts.
Let me check that. Star Wars.
Yeah, I'm looking at it
Republic.
right now.
It's still going. You can still play it.
Well, I mean, obviously it's still going. I meant, like, when was its last major update?
Celebrate May the 4th. They posted yesterday. In-game events for May. It's still going.
Yeah, but like with an MMO, like an in-game event can be something as small as like just handing out like a reward. I mean, like when the last substantial like thing for it was. I'm curious now.
There was an armor set in April. Let's see. There was the newest expansion was called Knights of the Eternal Throne, and Knights of the Eternal Throne.
The last expansion was 2019. Not to interrupt you, Tom, but it was October 22nd. Onslaught. That's crazy. That might be one of the only things pre-Lucas that survived.
That's still going.
That's
Pre-Disney,
crazy.
you mean? Yeah.
Like,
the only other thing is Clone Wars, but Clone Wars is different because that was like George Lucas himself working on that, and it was considered like it was the one thing he considered canon outside of the films. So it's wild that this online game still exists. I wonder if it still has like.
I'm sure it still has like a pretty. I feel like every time you see like stuff online, like Star Wars, you'll see it from time to time where it's like the Old Republic game movie, and it's like a 2.5 hour long video, and it's like all the cut scenes, and people really like the cut scenes from those.
I really did.
Hey, they're cool.
They felt so like artificial to me. It felt like someone watched the prequels and like just wanted to do like a big prequel style battle without getting like any of what the prequels were actually doing with that stuff, and it's all just these weird like caricatures flipping around and using insane force powers. I don't know, I'm much more interested in playing the two Knights of the Old Republic games than I would be something like this MMO.
It has a total base player count of 5 million, but that doesn't tell you what it means now.
Right. Like
still
that's probably
have
everyone
people.
that's logged on at some point in history.
So, okay, I found this from 2019, June of last year. And it says that it probably puts it in the realm of about 100,000 daily active players.
Okay.
But it's not a free-to-play game, so they're still getting whatever the subscription fee times 100,000 from those people. So I'm imagining that's why they've kept it on life support for this long, so they can continue to, like...
You know, I'm shocked that in the Disney era they haven't done an MMO to kind of see if they could replace that. But I guess this is so self-sustaining, like, why bother?
Plus, this one's also EA, who happens to have the Star Wars game license.
Okay, so that's fair.
So if it's not broke, don't fix it. Speaking of broke things being fixed, this kind of just relates to me and maybe Tom, but the Star Wars Fallen Order had an update where they added some new stuff, a new game plus. They've added stability, thank Christ.
Yeah, I know you have some issues with that.
Yeah, and it's a shame because, God, I love that game so much. Even with that, like, 4-week break I was forced to take because I got stuck in a game-breaking bug. Hey, I still love that game.
Tom, which game did you grab last night, anyway?
Sorry?
Tom grabbed a game last night. Pod racing?
Oh, yeah.
It's not out yet. But,
Yeah,
yeah,
I put
that's,
in a pre-order for Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. Which
Oh,
is
I
out
didn't know it was a
week.
pre-order. You didn't mention that.
Yeah, that one is a pre-order, I think, and then the other 3 are just I grabbed. But it's an old game. I mean, it came out when Phantom Menace came out, but it's finally getting a PC port.
oh, it's such a fantastic game, too. It's coming out on Switch, which I'm big excited about.
Yeah, I got that. I got the 2 Knights of the Old Republic games, and I got Republic Commando, and none of which I've ever played before. So I'm excited for all of those.
I think it's going to have multiplayer on the Switch, so next time we all sit on a couch together, not 6 feet apart, unless we have a very large couch, maybe we'll have to do that, because what an absolute gem of a video game. Like, holy shit.
I do love pod racing. You're going to have to give this a go.
I am, drunk enough right now to say that I absolutely love the prequels.
I mean, I like the prequels, too. They're not great movies. I can still love them.
Okay, but they're
not great movies.
They're my favorite of all 9. You can judge me, it's okay.
Honestly, if I had to think of all 9, I would say that yeah, it's tough for me, because I think I enjoy 1 through 3 and 4 through 6 about the same. Like, God, I love them
Yeah.
so much.
For me, 1 to 6, like, Lucas's story is what I consider Star Wars, and then everything after that, like, is what I kind of see as the extra stuff.
And
Like,
there
1
are
to
some
6
parts of it
is-
that I still enjoy.
Yeah.
In
like-
7 through 9.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like,
Okay,
that's
there's
not
nothing in
knocking
9
any
that
of
is
the
to
other
be
stuff.
enjoyed.
Say that
What was
again,
that,
I think your
Amanda?
voice broke.
I said there is nothing in 9 that is to be enjoyed.
9
Except
is
for
definitely
maybe
my least
Dio.
favorite.
I mean, they had B-Wings. That was kind of neat.
Dio. There's Dio.
But
God.
if you want, you get a whole Rebels episode all about Hera flying B-Wing.
That's right. You're very right. See, like, when I first saw episode 9, and, like, probably, like, I'll say, like, oh, I enjoyed it. And if you say, John, name one thing about Star Wars episode 9 that you really, really liked and it really stuck out to you, I don't think I could tell you.
Yeah, 9, I much prefer the Colin Trevorrow draft, which
See, I didn't really
had a ton of
like that.
problems. I don't think it was great, but I liked it better. It at least felt like a sequel to 7 and 8, which 9
Yeah, granted. Yeah, I'll give it that.
Like,
But, like,
9
some of the
didn't
stuff
even
is
feel
so
like
weird.
a sequel to Abrams' other movie, to 7.
Yeah, it
There's
was.
just 9 was just this absolute huge mess to me, and I liked 7, I liked 8, I liked Rogue One and Solo, I liked Mandalorian, Clone Wars and Rebels. Like, I like all of that. It was just 9 was not a good movie. Like, I have not revisited it since opening night in the theater.
Wait, hold on. I remembered something I liked. I liked the Kylo Ren scene where he kills the Knights of Ren. That was pretty metal.
When he has Anakin Saber.
Yeah, and he does like the Han Solo shrug
Yep.
because he's like, "Believe me, I don't even know where I got this lightsaber. The writers just gave it to me."
I'll say Adam Driver does a very good job in it, despite having nowhere near as good material to work with as he did in
Yeah.
7 and 8.
Trying to think of another thing for episode 9 I enjoyed.
What's his name?
The Rey Skywalker meme.
No, Tom. What is the other?
Oh, Babu Freak. Babu
Yes,
Freak is
thank
great.
you.
Okay, I read this really great tweet after episode 9 came out from someone who said that they saw Little Women. And, I'm gonna spoil a super old story here. But in Little Women, one of the sisters died. And, I guess there was a sound issue in the theater, and Little Women was really low, and episode 9 was on the next screen, and it was really loud. And as they're at the sister's funeral, the people just hear, "Hey!" from Babu Freak overpowering the theater.
Can you
I would
imagine?
have cried. Just like, it's imagine like this world setting, and then it's.
Freaking Babu.
See, that's a character that, like, I don't really mind him.
Babu
like, I
was
get-
my favorite thing in the movie, honestly.
Yeah, I didn't really, like, it didn't hit home for me. I was like, okay, he's kind of cool. He fixes droids. He's a little old man thing. It's neat.
I just like the way he says, "Hey, hey."
I don't know.
I
Dio
picked
was
Ba-
still
I
my
picked
favorite.
Babu for John. When we saw
Oh.
it together.
This guy who used to work with me and Fred, he's an 80-year-old Italian man, as Italian as they come. And Fred was like, it was cool that they put Ronnie in Star Wars, and talking about Babu Freak, and like with Babu's like kind of like just made up language, and the guy that we knew who like he would intercut his English sentences with like Italian like slang, and like he'd be like fana babaloo, and just like it reminded me of Babu Freak so much. Like I can't like they even look kind of similar with like the wrinkles and the long white hair, and God
Jeez.
made the character
That's
for me.
fantastic.
Tread bikes were kind of neat.
Fly now.
They fly now.
Oh God, now it's ruined.
And I feel bad because I really like the new cast of characters and everything.
Yeah,
And
they're great.
Really like, I like 7. I'm I guess in the minority, but 8 more than 7. But nobody went anywhere. Nobody had a story in 9. Everyone just kind of ran from set piece to set piece, screaming lines as loud as they can.
There's a story about 7 that relates to this podcast, kind of, sort of.
Let's hear it.
I saw 7 twice the night it premiered.
Oh, that's right. And I saw you between one of the screenings.
I saw it once with some coworkers, and once with some friends from school and some of their friends. Between, I walked by John, ships in the night, and we were both like, we know each other from work. And that was before we even started talking to each other. We both looked at each other like, I know you, and nothing happened. And that's the story.
Well, you were with someone I did know, so I went over and just talked to him and said hi to the group, and then I went and did my own thing, and I was like, oh wow, that guy Fred has friends. Who would have guessed?
Nobody. The answer is nobody would have guessed Fred has
I was
friends.
like, wow, look at those guys with the pity third wheel.
Which is weird because it was our coworker, his girlfriend, the third wheel, and then me.
And then look how funny it is that I went to see episode 9 with Fred, and I was the pity third wheel.
You were the side chick, John. Don't you ever forget it.
So when it comes to episode 9, I thought for sure that you guys went to Providence Place to see it and bought my ticket and was all excited, only to find out that you guys went to Lincoln.
Oh yeah, for Force Awakens, you said 9.
Oh, yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because that was when we first started talking, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm seeing Star Wars, and you wanted to just, be fun and show up, and you bought the wrong theater.
Yep. Hey, my tickets were free.
Did you wait
okay?
in line for 7 hours by yourself, Amanda, or did you get there at a reasonable time like a normal human being?
I got there like a normal human being because I didn't care at that point.
What movie was it we were going to together, and Tom was like, we're going to Providence Place, and John and I were like, wait to get a shot, thank you. That episode?
You're cutting in and out, but I get the gist of what you're saying.
Oh, shit.
It was not Star Wars.
Was it Endgame?
I don't remember what it was.
What about Endgame? Because I remember all of that night.
I saw you guys
No.
before I went in, that's right.
I hid
It's
from
not
you.
Endgame.
I remember coming out of. I remember waiting in line for Infinity War, and Tom and Amanda coming out of that, and just like, oh, those were not happy faces.
Infinity. But do you remember Endgame? Because I was
Were you in
great.
Endgame?
I was great through the end of Endgame until I got to the car.
I don't really remember Endgame. It feels like it was 8. Granted, it was 12 months ago.
Yeah,
It
but
feels like it feels like it was
But-
3.
But I remember looking at you and then walking out the door. Like, that's one of my most remembered moments.
See, I don't really miss the movie theaters yet because it's always I like going to the movies.
Excuse me.
I don't really miss it yet.
Black Widow is supposed to be out 2 months
But I'm
ago.
always-
I miss it.
Yeah,
I mean, a
you
month
guys
ago.
very much go see movies all the time. I really don't unless it's like a
My
tentpole
last
Marvel
time in the
thing.
theater was with you, John. And when we saw 1917, that guy in the front was talking through the whole movie.
Yeah, I remember seeing that movie in 1917. Oh, you meant the movie 1917? Yeah. God.
But yeah, that's the last time I was in the theater was with you to see that. And then the night before that, I saw The Thing with Amanda. A local theater did a screening of that.
Yep.
God, 1917 was so good.
It was.
The last movie I saw in theater was Rise of the Skywalker.
I don't remember my last movie.
It was the thing with me.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, I was
before
just
I
waiting
saw
for Widow.
1917 was
All
good.
I wanted was Widow, okay?
Last week we saw it, remember? It was good.
Mm. You mean when I watched Civil War?
Yeah, Civil War's great.
I love Civil War. But still, I wanted Widow.
I'm just gonna say it. Kind of miss sports. That's it.
I think you're the only one.
I am the only one. But for reasons.
No, I like baseball. It would be, baseball season now. I'd probably, be getting tickets to go to a game.
I mean, being someone who doesn't watch sports, like so not to sit here and sound all like, my life hasn't changed much since quarantine. But like the only thing that's really changed is I don't go out and hang out with friends anymore.
Yeah.
It's just work and home.
I'll take John one first. My life hasn't changed.
And it's God, it's starting to hit this boiling point where God, I love my family, but fucking hey, if I just need to see somebody who isn't Fred.
Thanks.
But no, I mean honestly, I think to be honest, 100%, if I didn't occasionally see glimpses of my friends when they're at the supermarket that I work at, and seeing Fred a few hours a day while we work, I honestly think I would be insane at this point. And it really just shows how important human connection is. Because God, I'm every little thing any one of my family members does at this point just annoys me. Where it's I'm now eating dinner in my room alone.
I thought John was going to say this is how important Fred is, but you know what? Never mind. I'll take the compliment I can get.
I said friends, Fred. You fall into that broad spectrum. God.
Oh, I know, but you see me daily almost.
Yeah. You haven't hit the point. I'm not saying I said with my family who I'm seeing every day. You're not as annoying to me yet.
We've worked together for 8 years. That's a common law marriage at this point.
Yeah. Hello, this is my work husband.
To change your Discord username back to husbando material.
But yeah. I mean, so what are we still how are we all still handling quarantine now that I've gotten my?
It's just a boring routine at this point. Essentially, I mean, I'm laid off of my main job, but I have some freelance work going on, so that's keeping me. But I mean, it just.
I'm got that side hustle going on.
I do. It just kind of is what it is. I'm very, I miss everybody, and I very much am looking forward to it being over.
And again, with how you guys are very much so the avid comic book readers, way more so than I am. I stability, because I don't really rely on sports or something like that. So far, my none of the stuff that I look forward to has really been interrupted so much. Except for maybe it sucks that Black Widow got delayed. I was excited to see that, but I don't sit there and oh, I can't wait to watch the Patriots tonight, or I can't wait to get that book next week.
Yeah, for me, it's
luckily,
a lot of the movies that are coming out. There's some stuff I think Green Knight is one that I was super looking forward to. That I think was slated for a June release. So that's happening.
The one thing that is starting to hit me, and it shouldn't be, because I'm itching to get to the hobby shop. I need to get there, and it's John, you don't need to go to the hobby shop. You have 60 unbuilt models, and I'm no, I need something new, and it's one thing is I've shrunk my backlog considerably. I've started models that I would have started if it hadn't been for this.
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, I'm God, let me in. I want to huff glue. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure we're all doing the same stuff where it's like, just watch movies and read old books and like just
Whatever
revisit
work
old
from
stuff.
home I can do, and yeah, catch up on a lot of my big watch list of movies I haven't.
Like I've been wanting to go through and like after I finish my Godzilla marathon, which is almost done. I think I'm gonna go back and play some old games. I think I'm gonna revisit the Spider-Man game again, or maybe Star Wars. Who knows? Fallen Order.
I'm upset Death Stranding got a delay. I'm really looking forward to getting Death Stranding and playing that.
Still haven't beaten Doom over here.
I beat
I
it
haven't.
last week before.
I haven't touched it in what feels like 3 weeks. I know Fred's been what's the word I want? Engorging himself on sentai and not hentai, sentai, which is for the people who don't know, like Power Rangers, Ultraman, Tokatsu television series.
Last year, it may have been Hot Girl Summer. This year is going to be Ohatsu Summer. That's all I'm saying.
Kotatsu Summer.
Fred, I love you.
Oh God.
So far, in my binge of Tokatsu, I have finished Ultraman Orb, or a project we might do later this year if everything goes back. Started Ultraman X. I have finished Kamen Rider Gaim. I am 10 episodes deep into Lupin Ranger versus Pato Ranger. Then I have Resha Sentai Tokuger, Ryu Soldier, Kamen Rider Gaim the movie, Kamen Rider Sengoku War the movie, and Kamen Rider Kiva coming in the mail soon-ish, the next couple months. I'm kind of like binging all aspects of the Tokatsu spectrum as far as I can. I'm loving what I've seen so far. Lupin Ranger versus Power Ranger is kind of weird, but that's only because I've grown up like understanding how Power Rangers works before watching the Sentai equivalencies. This one will never have a Sentai equivalency. A Power Ranger equivalency, I mean. And like Kamen Rider, I only have like a brief understanding of because I've watched like 6 episodes of the one that's on Amazon Prime. I saw a couple episodes of the 4Kids series. But like, I'm really enjoying what I'm watching, but the Sentai version of Power Rangers is just different, but the same for me. So it's kind of weird. But yeah, like, I plan on just binging a bunch of these series just to get a feel for it. Plus, with Marvel getting the rights to the Ultraman comic, I wanted to like binge more into the Ultraman series I can get a hold of. I'm just paying like $40 to watch it on Amazon because that's kind of bullshit.
So when you get this Godzilla, Fred?
Might, but Crunchyroll has like 5 or 6 seasons of Ultraman to watch. Some newer ones, I think, some older ones. Maybe, but like I kind of want to just focus on like absorbing as much Ultraman as I can so I can read the comic more fairly, and then we can do stuff about that.
Fair. Are there any more Godzilla comics in the works, or is that all basically come to an end?
Yeah, I don't think IDW has done anything since.
I know there's the occasional MonsterVerse tie-in stuff, but that's a totally separate thing.
Yeah, I think IDW's run has ended. I'm not sure if they still hold the license.
Okay.
But yeah, and that's something I've always really, really wanted to. I don't even think they have like hardcover collections for that, unless
Right. Like I'd love to get trades because there's some stuff that looks really cool, like Godzilla in Hell, especially. Is impressive to me.
Yeah, I think I have most of that series, and it's interesting.
The guy that wrote and drew one of my favorite recent Aliens comics.
But I'd have to check if there's a Godzilla trade for the IDW stuff, because it's very interesting. At least the two. I'm not sure if they all tell an interconnected story, but I know they had like their initial run, and then they had something called the Half Century War, which I think was like a shorter story that wasn't connected. But I know didn't Matt Frank tease he's working on something, the artist from that series?
He's working on something for Legendary, so for Godzilla vs. Kong. But I have
so
no
he's probably not
idea
doing other
if
series.
it'd be cool if it was like a comic book miniseries tie-in, but I'm worried it's gonna be something dumb like little animations for like a mobile game or something.
Yeah, probably.
Like if he's doing, just because I know for both Godzilla, Kong Skull Island, and King of the Monsters, for all three of those, they've done a tie-in comic. And I know they're going to be doing one for Godzilla vs. Kong. So I really hope it's that. Not, like, something dumb.
I have the 2014 Godzilla tie-in.
Is it any good? I haven't read any of the MonsterVerse.
It's interesting. It's a little confusing in some aspects, but it is, the monster's interesting. Or well, that monster Godzilla fights.
So that was this episode of Chewing the Fat, which is probably our longest.
Chewbaccaing the Fett.
God damn it, John. You had 2 hours to use that. Thank you for listening to this episode of Chewbaccaing the Fat, the podcast. Hopefully we'll be back soon with some more content. There's maybe some stuff in the work. I might just, get somebody here to record me rambling about, sentai for a little bit. I don't know. But, yeah, stay safe, wear masks, wash your hands, read comics, enjoy beer. Those liquor stores are still open. Support your local businesses. Thank you for listening, and you can follow us here on YouTube, like and subscribe. On Twitter at Brew Comics, and on Instagram at Brew Comics, I believe. I don't know. I don't run that account.
Don't ask me right now.
Yeah, don't ask Amanda right now. Tomorrow, probably. She might not want to listen.
Yeah.
Half the podcast is drunk. I'm mad.
Yep.
I should have gone to the liquor store.
You should have. I told you what they had. I might pick you up some. I don't know.
On that note,
That's it. That's the note.
love you guys.
Wrap it up.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.